I'm going to kick this off, Rich, and I'm super excited that we're having such a timely topic today. I want to welcome everybody to the Coastal Wealth webinar on financial goal setting. Today's speaker is Rich Aioli. Rich was born and raised in Hollywood, Florida, a graduate of Florida State University with a business degree, and also earned an MBA from Nova University. Rich works out of our office in Plantation, Florida. He's part of an elite team with a lot of resources and specializing in areas like college funding, retirement planning strategies, long-term care and disability protection, asset management, and all aspects of financial planning, including trust services. I'm super excited, and it's an honor for me to introduce Richard Aioli.
Thank
The
you, Neil,
floor is yours, Rich.
Thank you, Neil, for the introduction. So, as Neil was saying, I've been doing financial planning for 18 years now, so the time just seems to go flying by, and it's an awesome profession to be able to help people. And then really what we're going to talk about today is like the basics. It's like if you're building a house, you got to start with a foundation. So when you deal with like budgeting and cash management, you're starting from the ground up and working up. So without further ado, I'm going to dive right in and bring up the presentation. Everybody see the screen? All right, so financial goal setting. This is basically financial IQ. Oh, let me go back one more page. So financial well-being. Essentially what financial well-being is having control over your day-to-day monthly finances and expenses. Having the capacity to work in financial shock, which being in South Florida and also last year, gone through many different financial shocks. So doing this 18 years, I see many different things. So a financial shock from 2005 could be like Hurricane Wilma down here, making sure you have like a nest egg just in case if something happens to your roof and so forth. Then we had a financial crisis back in 08 and move forward to last year into currently 2021. Being on track to meet financial goals, then financial freedom essentially allows you to get up in the morning and do whatever you want, where you're not tied to the old financial system where you have to work every single day. So basically what we want to talk about is what is financial well-being and how can you put everything into perspective? All right. What is most important to you? This is how you prioritize. If you say like getting out of debt is a very big priority, or owning a home next year or 5 years, how do you get to that home ownership? Or it could be for someone that wants to retire 5 years or 10 years down the road. Or you may want to send a kid to college or 2 kids to college. Some other important items might be like taking care of family and loved ones. So those are like your good priorities right there. Now, some other people may have different priorities, like, all right, I want to get a car, or I want a dream vacation. Those should be like on the lower end of the totem pole of what priorities should be, because those are basically wants. If you go through the first part of what's important to you, it's like needs. So you need to get out of debt because you can't go further if you have a shackle around you with high debt. And we're going to talk about different types of debt down the road too. So your financial goals, as the title says, be smart. So without a game plan where you could be specific, be measurable, actionable, relevant, and time-bound. So when you have a specific goal, if you go back to the previous page, like you mentioned a specific goal of maybe going to college for your kids in a couple of years, or yourself, you want to go back and get an additional degree. So that could be like a specific goal. Then you measure that goal on how much is it going to cost to get to that goal of college 5 years down the road, how much you need to save, how much that money needs to grow, and then plan for contingencies. And actionable. How do you make that goal become true? Because like when I first got into business, we always said like you got to write something down as a goal and a plan. If you don't write it down, you're never going to make it happen. Make it relevant and then you have a time frame for it, because that's how you go from start A to start B. So that's really a great way to make sure your financial goals and achieve what you want.
Rich, real quick, I just noticed we're seeing actually I think the wrong side of your screen. So we're seeing the smaller. Can you switch to share your other screen so we see it on full screen?
Sure, 1 second.
Thank you so much.
Let me move this over. So first I'm doing a PowerPoint through a webinar. I might be.
You're all good.
All right, let me see.
I think if you unshare and reshare the other side of if you have two monitors, it gets a little.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna unplug the monitor. So it's all on one page. That come back up better?
Still the same,
Hmm.
but maybe display settings. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I could make it any. Let's see if I could try to maximize it through this. A little bit better?
Yeah, a little bit. Maybe if you display settings up at the top left, the top left. One more over.
Oh, here we go. It's not allowing me to do anything.
There you go. I think that's it. Swap presenter view and slideshow.
It's not highlighted, so I can't click on it.
Oh, all right. Never mind. You're good. It's fine.
Okay. All right, I may have jumped slides. Let me see if I could go back. Okay, so this slide right here is like financial goals. I always like to say it's like wants and needs, but our title of this has wants and concerns. So basically needs are, you need to have a place to live. You need to keep the lights on. You need to keep food in your stomach, clothes on your back. Then there's secondary needs for down the road. So those are current needs. Future needs are retirement, because you have to retire one day, but you try to encompass in today of like, how much money do I need to save for future retirement? Once you accomplish the needs or concerns, then you can focus on the wants. So wants is that new car and vacation. So I keep picking on those two things right now. So granted, most people, you have to have a car for your work, but there's different types. You can have luxury cars versus your like a Toyota Camry, which gets you to point A to point B. Then home ownership, that's definitely a like a want, but you have to have a place to live. So you don't need to actually own a home. You could still rent, but it's going to come down to the first couple of slides. When you have a budget, goals, you try to prioritize. Like, I have X amount of money per month that I could save, and this is how I'm going to tie into that for the home wants versus basically needs and concerns. So that's the balancing act when you go down the road, when we look at like, how do we get there? So you have to address these first, then you move forward. Okay, so these are some, definitely don't want to scare you today, but definitely some of these stats when you throw out there, it is scary times when you realize almost half the people live paycheck to paycheck. And if you're living paycheck to paycheck, it's going to be very, very difficult to achieve some of these other goals. So we're going to try to give you little tricks of the trades of basically how to get there from paycheck to paycheck. 70% of people don't have enough emergency savings. So that means if, God forbid, if you're out of work for 3 to 6 months, that's going to be able to keep paying the rent, keep paying the mortgage. If something major comes up where you lose your job, or if you hurt your knee, you're out of work, where your income's dependent upon when you go to work. So the median retirement savings of working age families is basically about $5,000. So that's with $5,000 doesn't get you retirement goal, but hopefully with some of these tips that we're going to provide today, it's going to be able to get you there down the road. If you get a bachelor's degree, so if you go back to some of the debts, So when you talk about bad debts, it's like credit card debts. Bachelor's degree for school, at least that's a college debt and allows you to up your profession so you could generate more income down the road too. Ask this question a lot too, is what keeps you up at night? And there's a lot of stress out there right now that people are up thinking about, do I have enough income to pay my bills? Do I have enough savings for emergencies that do pop up? Am I going to be able to retire one day? What's that retirement going to look like? And debt, like I have all this credit card debt. I might have some of these student loans. I got the mortgage debt. I got car debt. So all these debts keep racking up, and that might just keep you up at night. And that could create stress in other areas too of your life. So these 4 major concerns, a lot of them really got people keep staying up all night. A lot of stress. We deal with it every single day with some of our clients. Like, all right, how am we going to help my kids for student loans? Or I got too much real estate debt. How do we deal with that? So this is unique to every different people. Like you might have different goals and concerns that keep up at night and goals for retirement down the road. So we mentioned having a goal, having a budget, and trying to get to some of these goals down the road. So this is setting an income goal. 5% is an arbitrary number. So it might be 5% for one person versus just starting off at 1%. And you could encompass this with potential savings inside 401k retirement plans. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but set a goal of increasing your income by 5%. So that might not be so simple because if you're a W-2 employee, your boss might not give you a raise. So how are you going to increase that income by 5%? Some people, what they have is called like side hustle jobs. Like you might have your 9-to-5 job, but maybe you sell items on Amazon or eBay, or pick up additional, like say Uber income on the side too. I know with the new gig economy, there's plenty of ways to try to make a little additional income if your current employer does not allow for increases in your salary. So at least get a goal and try to accomplish that from other different ways. So this is that 5% income goal with a 2% salary increase. So this is just an example where how much money your salary is over a lifetime. So a lot of times when we ask some of our clients, like, what's your biggest asset? Most common answer is going to say, my house. But most of the time, that's true. So if you look at this person right here, which is 30 years old, they have a $75,000 salary with a 2% annual increase. For the next 37 years, that's going to be $4 million of income. So that's a massive asset right there. So things down the road we could talk about, like how do you protect that most value asset? But you have $4 million to work with over 37 years. How do you want to spend it? Do you want to spend it? Do you want to save it? Because it's going to come down to those goals. Where some people might have that good goals for homeownership, retirement, or some of the not really bad goal of getting a better car or a dream vacation. So if you have a pot of money of $4 million, it's pretty much how do you break that apart. So small percentages can become big over time. So if you look right here, a 2% increase to 3%, that's almost a $900,000 increase. If you're able to basically set an income goal of trying to increase that. I know that's going to be difficult, but things we're going to talk about in a little bit is savings goals, which is a little bit easier that you could control that. So these are just examples. You go from 2%, 3%, 4% to 5%. Those little fractions add up over time. So those are big numbers. So how do you increase your income from 2 to 5%? So you minimize tax exposure. So I mentioned try to get a overtime pay or maybe side jobs. So join the sharing economy and turn your passions into cash. So that could be maybe you had collectibles when you were younger, selling that on eBay to try to get additional income off that. I mentioned the sharing economy. That could be I mentioned Uber or some other gig economy jobs. And if your employer allows for overtime, try to take advantage of that. And then minimize tax exposure. So that could be like something where you pay yourself first if your company offers a qualified sponsor retirement plan where you can put money in there and get a tax deduction. That's almost like an income increase because you're paying less money to your, we call it your business partner, Uncle Sam. So if he's taking less money out of your pocket, it's more for you and your family to achieve some of those goals down the road. So setting a savings goal. So the arbitrary number that all financial experts say is consider setting a personal savings goal of 10% of your after-tax income, not including retirement contributions. So that's tough to do nowadays. If you're making $75,000, $100,000 a year, that's $7,000 to $10,000 of the savings goals above and beyond the 401k or IRA contributions or Roth IRA. That's difficult to do, but if you start off with a plan, that plan can allow you to get there. So maybe it's 10% 10 years down the road, but you got to start with something. So maybe start with 1% today and gradually increase that slope up a little bit every single year. So there are many things to save for. So we mentioned doing this for almost 18 years, having that savings emergency fund. So all those different things that can happen, especially down here in South Florida with hurricanes, tropical storms, or financial crisis or pandemics, that's why you have that saving emergency fund. Then you could have that secondary goal of home ownership. So back in 2007, you didn't really have to have any money down, but most of the times you're either doing a 3% to anywhere up to 25% down payment on a home. So that's why you have to have that goal for a couple of years to try to achieve that home ownership. Then you have a college education goal, and the bottom two again, which is car and vacation. Those are your want goals. So you try to take care of the first couple ones, then you get to your want goals. So how do you really make enough savings a reality? Okay, so we're picking on that $75,000 gross income at age 30. So if you're able to save 10% of that, which comes out to $469 per month, just on a 5% annual growth rate, that $469 per month for basically 30 years is going to grow to $585,000 by the time you hit to age 67 years old. If you're somehow able to increase that, because backtrack, a 5% growth rate on your portfolio, essentially your money is going to double every 14 years because you have the rule of 72. If you're able to achieve like a higher rate of return of say 10%, that means your money doubles every 7 years. So if you're younger at 30 years old, it gives you a huge advantage over someone that's like 45 or 50 years old because you don't have that time value of money. So starting earlier, this is really important because $469 per month, it may be a lot to a lot of people, but that number could turn into $585,000 before you know it. So how do you get these savings goals? So we mentioned new income. That's tough to do for some people, but reduce expenses. And I know we're going to drill in a little bit more deeper on that. How do you cut down some of these expenses? So this is a way to get to that $469. So they have the new income of $234 and then reduce expenses. So if you're making a little additional income, getting overtime or picking up a side hustle job, that could be $234 in new income per month. And then cutting down some of your expenses, which I'll pull up in 1 second. Okay, so the savings goals, make goals easier to attain. So budget, automatic savings, higher yields, which is extremely difficult for savings right now in this low interest rate environment, and lower costs through new technologies. So without the budget, it's going to be difficult to get to 2, 3, and even 4. Because the budget's going to basically dictate where all your money's going. How much money goes out every single basically month for the cable bill, for the phone bill, for the electric bill. There's a lot of like unnecessary bills out there too, where you see all these different streaming services. So if you're able to cut down some of these expenses, now I'll jump on that in 1 second again too. It could give you additional money. That's how you could get back to that $469 again. Okay, set a retirement goal. So you got your cash flow goals for your emergency reserves. That's the 10% of your basic income. So if you're making $75,000 a year, the savings goal should be for $7,500 in after-tax retirement. Now, getting to retirement, which is a long-term goal, is basically trying to get a nest egg will equal 15 times your retirement income. So try to have simple math. If you're making $100,000, your nest egg really should be 15 times that. So that's basically $1.5 million. So that number sounds really big, but we're just showing you the math behind of saving $469 per month based on a 5% return, that gets you out to $585,000. If you double that, get a little higher rate of return, you can easily get to the 1.5 million. I've seen it time and again because I've done this almost 20 years now, so 18 years in this, and the numbers do add up. So here's a reason why they're saying that you should have a nest egg of 15 times your annual income, which could generate 75% of your pre-retirement income during retirement. Reason why we try to use 75% of your pre-retirement income, because your tax rate should be lower. I mean, I know that's a debate for another time, but you're not paying payroll taxes in retirement. So that's why that number immediately drops off. So, and if you have less income coming out of retirement accounts, your tax rate is going a little bit lower. So basically 15 times 5% gets you right to that 75% of your pre-retirement income. So that's a pretty straightforward equation. The difficulty is getting there. So we showed you how to try to do it by saving on the monthly budget. It's just sticking to that plan, and that definitely can be achieved. All right, what else do you need to consider when determining the size of your retirement nest egg? Know your investment profile, how much time you have until retirement, amount of retirement account contributions, build other assets. So that could be money outside your 401k or IRA plan. It could be like an investment brokerage account. That could be an investment property. It could be like a stock account, just CDs money market. Number 4 is estimated living expenses. So that comes back to the budget again. So that's how much do you need to pay your monthly mortgage or pay your monthly rent? How much are your utilities? How much are car payments? So those go back into like the basic needs for your expense budget. Then you go to your wants. You don't need to budget a vacation per month. That should be like an annual budget down the road. If you accomplish the first goals of your needs, then you get to the wants. In healthcare, that's a tricky budget too, because that goes up every single year. You see many other different types of health insurance plans that have higher deductibles, which is why we try to tell you you need to save 10% of your income for those unseen health emergencies. So that's all part of the retirement goal too. Now, what if you went to college, have a big mortgage, you have kids, and you racked up all this debt? Try to set a debt payment goal. So consider setting a goal to pay down in 20 years. So you start off with a much higher debt. You got to attack the higher interest rates first. So the highest interests out there are the unsecured credit cards, because if you're late on one payment, all of a sudden those interest rates spike up to 20, 25, even 30%. That puts you in a much bigger hole. So you try to attack that type of debt first. The last debt you try to go after is your housing debt, because that's some of the cheapest debt you've seen in almost close to 100 years, because you're getting 30-year mortgage payments around 2.5% in that general vicinity. So if you free up debt, that allows you to get to more money for retirement. And what we've seen with a lot of our clients too is when they get to like peak saving years, because the kids are out of school. You have this curve right here where you paid off the debt. If you're not paying off debt, now you got additional money inside your pocket and what to do with that. So you might even get above the 10% threshold to save even more money. And that gives you a lot of financial flexibility and financial freedom too, where you could do whatever you want. Okay, so balance debt with other goals. So debt-free from retirement. You're seeing a little bit less and less now because you're seeing more retirees with mortgages, but if that's a goal, you have it down on paper, it's way easier to achieve if you have it written down. You save more. So I mentioned try to get to that 10% savings. It's tough to get to start off with, but say if you hit that 10% threshold, give yourself a raise every single year by jumping that savings rate from 10 to maybe 11, 12%. So a lot of 401k plans, they have what they call as automatic increase. So try to do that for your side personally towards a debt repayment goal too. So you can do that with after-tax money, and then you can even do that inside your retirement accounts also. Things you can do to help debt elimination goal. So as I mentioned earlier, know your debts. The different types of debt, different interest rates are very vital. So try to attack the high interest rates first and go after a low interest rate secondary. Good debt versus bad debt. So we mentioned the good debt of your primary house. College education, those are two really good debts right there. Your bad debts are a credit card where you put that dream vacation around the world and all of a sudden you're paying 10, 15% on that interest on that bad debt. So sometimes cars could be really bad debt too, because you might over budget it like a sports car, you really don't need it, but all of a sudden your debt's way higher. So that's why you get to know your debt. Also check out your credit score every single year too, because that can impact the cost of your debt too. They have the free annual credit reports that are backed by the government. You could go on their website and get that from like TransUnion and Experian and so forth. Priorities. Without your priorities, you're not going to get there. So just have a good solid foundation for your priorities, and that's how you be able to attack the different types of debt that you have. So I mentioned this earlier. It's like this is a seesaw event right here. So if you got more debt that's weighing you down, you're going to have less propensity for higher savings. So debt, not so good for the bad debt, unless it's for those college to advance your education or for primary home ownership. And then savings. So that's just the intertwine between debt and savings right here. So that's pretty straightforward. So why are goals so important? Achieve your financial well-being. So if you have an income goal, a savings goal, a retirement goal, or a debt goal, which one of these are the most important things? And I know they affect each other too. Higher income you make, it's going to allow you to save more or pay off more debt or retire at an age that you want to or have more in retirement. So those things all are pretty much intertwined. And this is why it's really important to try to achieve a financial well-being. So this is the 5, 10, 15, 20 SMART goals. So the 5 is increase your annual income by 5% every year. So we mentioned the ways of maybe trying to work a little bit more overtime or reduce your tax burden by saving money into different, say, retirement accounts. That's how you increase your net. 10 SMART goal is save at least 10% of your income each year. So now you get to the 15 year. Target a retirement nest egg about 15 times your annual income. So the example was if you make $100,000, you try to get to that 1.5 million. 20, plan to have your debt, excluding mortgage, pay down within 20 years. So these are just simple rules that you could try to live by. Helps you move yourself along to achieve some of these. I know some of these are going to be very difficult, but life's not easy. So nothing is handed to you. So that's why you have to have goals written down to try to achieve them. So just remember 5, 10, 15, 20. And you're going to have a much better financial future with trying to live by some of these, hopefully all of these. One thing that I touched on briefly, that it's not really a slide in here. It's a component of the slide when they showed that 5% annual increase. And I talked about the number of years it takes to double your money. The whole benefit of that one slide, can I go back to that real quick? Yeah, this with the savings goal. So I talked briefly on that rule of 72, which is basically the number of years based on your interest rate to double your money. So younger people, if you're on this call right now, you have a huge advantage with compound interest. So compounded interest is one of the most powerful forces in the universe because that's basically the number of years how your money doubles and almost creates like a snowball. So if you're saving when you're younger, even at a modest 5% growth rate, where historically the S&P is way up in the 9, 10, sometimes even higher than that, money's going to grow a lot quicker. So one of the things is starting younger when you're saving puts you in a way better position versus if you're 60, 65 years old and you have too much time on your hands for a savings goal. I mean, it's never too late for anyone, but you do have a clear advantage when you're younger for savings goals right here. So just wanted to really dive that in. It's like the main things for today is creating that budget, have goals, and try to take advantage of time value of money or compound interest.